Trifecta, I think just their only option in my mind would be to just mix things up entirely.
It's looking like that way in my mind as well. I agree with you. I think Trifecta needs to really change it up. Maybe even go to second pick and try something like that, because it's not working out too well. They're going to stick in that first pick selection though here in game number 3. Their bans so far have been Naja, Artio in the first phase, pretty consistently. And those are 2 picks that SK definitely would value should they be open. But like I said, I wonder if you just have to ban King Arthur yourself here if you don't want to take it.
I still want to see Trifecta taking out the Artio, though. I think that will always remain a ban that if teams don't want to have to worry about Neirumah at your speed buff, you take out the Artio. But there is also a chance here, though, based off the fact that they chose to actually ban the Artio first, that Trifecta might even be looking for the Naja.
Yes, I think that's a fine sort of explanation of why they might ban the Artio first. It's actually going to be Bacchus up next. So now, if I'm SK, I leave Naja and King Arthur open. I ban something else, and then I say you're giving us one of them, and see which one you want to take. And then you're getting Xbalanque as well. I wonder if Trifecta would consider taking Xbalanque first overall for Wowy, and instead letting SK take King Arthur and Naja or something like that.
Even better still, SK banning the Xbalanque instead, because Agro, I think you were on to something when you said taking the Xbalanque for Wowy. It felt like, I think Xbalanque would have been the safest first pick that Trifecta could have gone for.
Agreed.
Because then it wouldn't have given away what Ducky wants. It wouldn't have given away what Lasbra or even Weekend wants. And it's just a strong team fighting ult. That's really all that SK would have to work off of, is knowing that Trifecta are, okay, well, they've got Xbalanque. That means that they could have just about any other components to help line things up there for that Darkest Night.
Still King Arthur. They stick with the same first pick all 3 games. We'll see if there's a different result, though, for Trifecta. SK, when faced with this exact same situation in the last few games, have gone Xbalanque, Bacchus, but with both of those banned, the gods that had been banned previously that are now open are Naja, Fenrir.
This has got to be Trifecta planning to take Camazotz or something, right? There's just no way in my mind that Trifecta would ever allow for the King Arthur first pick and yet still leaving open that Camazotz as well for Belair, because Belair has already shown on more than one game that he has no problems whatsoever dealing with this King Arthur. But it is a little bit of a switch up too for SK, because they're not going to have that Xbalanque to first pick this time around, so they're going to supplement it with the Fenrir instead and kind of just buckling down, I think, on a super aggressive early game by adding the Camazotz to it.
I think SK was in the same thought thread that you were, and that Trifecta must be taking Camazotz here, so let's prioritize it early on. How quickly things change, by the way. We go from seeing literally no Camazotz anywhere, I haven't seen a Camazotz in my game in months, to now he's first picked on second side.
Sometimes you just gotta fight.
2 weeks of SPL.
Fire with fire, man.
I guess so. Okay, so now Trifecta has the option. Ratatosker is going to be the pick. Weekend had a pretty good start to the last game, but the mid game started to fall off pretty hard. I wonder if they're going to go Naja support, and that is where they're going to go for Eonic. Eonic, one of the initial Naja supports way back in the day, but these days I think it's even stronger than it was then. But again, it's a triple physical composition for Trifecta early.
And Kronos to be added to SK's roster might put a little bit of a damper on some of that early game aggression, but that, if anything, would be, you know, a little bit of moral support to Trifecta, because I'm not gonna lie, Aggro, it is rough when you come in here for a best of 5 and you just get smacked 2 games in a row.
In less than an hour combined. That is definitely not what you're looking for in any situation, especially when it's your first set. I think it takes a lot of wind out of your sails. Poseidon, the first ban, trying to get rid of a cripple that could really affect this Fenrir pick. Fenrir could be in the jungle, I think, for Sam for soccer. It could be in support for Neirumah. If it wasn't for the Camazotz, I would say it could even be in solo. I think that might be a matchup that Belair might be interested in, but with the Camazotz there, I don't think there's any way we see anything but that going into the solo.
But the Kronos being picked up does leave a little bit of wiggle room here for Paul to maybe do his infamous Uller special, and
sure.
I am not certain that that's something Trifecta really want to have to deal with, which is why I think they're sitting on these 3rd and 4th pick bans for so long.
And don't forget, Paul does, I mentioned at the very beginning, Paul's God pool not considered huge. Kronos is in it. He used to be a Kronos one trick way back in the day. Basically, any of the mages that would be good in duel Paul is going to have in the God pool. Chronos certainly fitting that bill as Habwa, again, banned away. That will happen a lot this year to SK Gaming in the second phase. It must be nice feeling like they only have 3 the enemy team only has 3 bans against them at any given time.
Surprisingly enough, SK actually banning the Uller themselves, but Wowy does have a pretty nasty Uller also, and Zapman, I don't think, has really had to worry too much about that 1v1 boxing because it's Jingwei and Xbalanque. Those gods aren't going to kill each other anytime soon in a 1v1 situation, but now with Chronos being a possible ADC choice here for either Zap or a mage choice for Paul, I think that Trifecta probably wish they could hold on to their 4th pick bans to see what Zap or Paul might end up with. And I think the best case scenario that Trifecta could probably hope for here is going to wind up being another Jingwei run, probably.
Zeus being hovered for SK. This is another pick that Paul played a lot of, more so on the console side. Don't have to delete the Z I typed. It's going to be Zhang Kui instead of the Zeus. That was a cruel bait that I do not appreciate. I would really like to see some Zeus play today, but it's fine. I'm not salty about it.
It'll be okay. You'll
Don't
see
need
him.
to be okay. I'm not salty. I literally just said it.
I can tell.
Good.
Great.
Glad we're on the same page.
Always am.
Can't stop it.
Don't want to.
Couldn't if we wanted to. Naja, Ratatoskr, King Arthur, the first 3 picks for Trifecta, but now they need some magical damage. They need someone for Wowy. I do not want to see Jingwei. Not only is it a bad matchup up against the Fenrir, but I'm good on that. Wowie's had 2 games that have been incredibly forgettable in the first 2, so let's try and get something for him that does a little bit more.
Kerninos?
Sure.
That's a possibility. I think Kerninos has also been severely underplayed so far in the SPL, but we are only in the 2nd week of competition, and there's still plenty of time, I think, for the GOAT to start making his debut. And that's going to be right now.
Good call. Kerninos is the selection. Good against Chronos. Can't really do a whole lot once he's rooted. It might be a little bit hard to hit him with that because of increased movement speed during Accelerate, but I think that locking down a fairly immobile mage ADC definitely something that Wowy could take advantage of. And now it's over to SK, likely looking for Sam for Soccer selection in the jungle. But again, Fenrir could still go into the jungle if necessary. But Raven looking pretty good here again by my estimation. Just a pick that Agni really has trouble with. As I mentioned, he can follow him through the dash. It's pretty easy to avoid the bomb stun. I think Raven would be a pretty good selection, and that's where they're going.
There really wasn't a single change here for any of these Trifecta, or at least between game 2 and 3. The only change was the ADC.
Right, Chronos
and,
instead of
the Achilles.
Oh yes, you mean for Trifecta?
Yes.
You're right. It is really similar.
Really similar.
So is the duo lane change enough to change the outcome of the game?
I think that this is an incredibly aggressive duo lane that if it's able to acquire early kills, then that lead could possibly transpire into something more if Eonic's able to make rotations into mid and such.
Finch and Tolly standing by to take you the game and see what the Batman will bring this time around.
He'll be looking for Rachel, I imagine. If she's somewhere here on this map. Totally, you don't like my
I don't know
Batman?
how I feel about this bit between you and Agro got going on here.
They asked me about the dual lane change, Totally, to talk about the game that's happening, and the only way that I can see it being enough is if they're able to get over there in time to defend this red buff, right? To try and make it so Lasbra can maintain some relevancy, because we all know my man's really good, but it's hard to be good if you're down 3 levels all the time.
It's going to come down to Eonic's presence in this game.
Right.
Like last game he was aggressive on the Achilles. This game he's going to probably be more aggressive on the Naja, but I don't want to see him rotating towards solo lane anymore. That's been hurting him too much in the experience factor. He was level 8, I believe, when Neirumah was still level 10. And that 2-level disparity hurts your team when you're not having access to that second relic. Eonic needs to make sure that red buff still goes to Lasbra.
Well, it is Finch and Tolly to try and see if we can make it into a game 4, but it's not just us. We got Doug LeBlanc back there as well, keeping us on the game, showing us the views.
The 1s and 2s.
The 1s and 2s. What does that mean?
I don't know. Is just Tom something he
just
says it?
stuff.
I
Yeah,
don't
isn't
know.
that right? I don't know.
It does sound kind of cool, though. I'll give him that.
I mean, it sounds cool, but I don't know. 1s and 2s is like a DJ thing, right? Is my understanding. Like
Maybe.
it's a DJ, but he's not DJing, right?
It's a form of DJing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's on the keys and boards.
No, what Tyler's doing right now is DJing.
Right, Tyler
Controlling the whole show.
Yeah,
He could shut
our
this
lead
whole
for
thing
this
down
one,
if he wanted to.
Please don't, Tyler. We need this. And Neirumah needs to get in there and strip away this speed buff. He wants to make this worth it. He's walked all the way in. A heavy commit from Neil, but they'll just turn around and secure the buff instead. They won't worry about this Fenrir. And somehow Neirumah knew that they wouldn't. Galaxy brained it and walked right out.
Pretty sure that was a three-way split. It was, because there's a little bit of experience right onto ducking. That's going to hurt Weekend because there's opening out of Sanford Soccer. He wasn't three-way splitting the same way Weekend was, so despite not getting a kill, not even harassing, Neirumah's just buying time to separate that experience, even allowing Belair to strip away Ducky's blue.
And they absolutely will. No way that Duck can come over and contest that by himself as he takes the third crack at this matchup of King Arthur up against Camazotz. And to be fair to Ducky, he did well in the matchup. He had good help from Weekend. They were able to punish this Camazotz and put him behind, but he couldn't do enough with this lead to make up for the fact that the rest of his team was behind elsewhere on the map.
An Arthur without blue buff is not even an Arthur anymore, honestly. You've
no.
basically gutted him completely. You are watching him look at his own guts being spilled out of his body because he essentially can't use his abilities and harass Belair and clear the wave at the same time. Instead, now, Ducky's just sitting under his own Tier 1 tower.
Neil showing some presence towards the middle lane, but not going to look for any actual gank attempts there as he joins up. It's a 2v2, except I'm lying to you. There's a third person here, it's Eonic, and he's hanging out. He wants to be there to try and take this red buff, but it's much too early for that. He'll have to settle for the back Harpies instead, and really no way for Zapman to get over there to stop that. He's too busy trying to deal with a Wowy, who's looking better so far on the Kronos, has this Kronos pushed under tower.
And now Eonic is able to strip away those backcams, so that might hurt out Sanford Soccer a little bit. But the way that Sam's been playing this set, at least, is not even looking for his own backcams. He's been too preoccupied with invading Trifecta's backcams in response.
Eonic is in some trouble. He only has the shell this time, so that horrific emblem is getting
no.
full value. That sets up first blood. Sanford Soccer locks him down, and Eonic goes back to base. SK yet again have all the pressure.
The body blocks were just perfectly timed, and Naja without Windfire wheels quite yet. Not the same kind of style to get out of the action, or at least stall for teammates to clean up. The pathing could have been cleaner. I think that if Eonic chose the route of going to dual lane to put more pressure onto Zap, would have been not only safer for Eonic to not die there, but also set up for maybe a red or a purple buff invade, knowing that Zap is still under his Tier 1 tower.
The rest of Trifecta will be there this time to defend the red buff totally. They've got to keep that going throughout the rest of this game. Right now, the problem, though, is this blue buff that's been stolen for the second time. All right, totally dance a little bit. At least stand in front of the camera if you're going to do that. Is blue buff continues to be stripped away from Ducky on this King Arthur. Right now, Belair, I mean, he's had a relatively easy time of it over here this set.
He has been, but not having an easy time this set is Lasbra. Being even harassed like this, it's not that much damage onto Lasbra, but it's enough that he has to use his dash. And that's about like a 14 to 15 second cooldown, where now there could be even more aggression knowing that there's a Fenrir around the corner and Sanford
Or you have your
Soccer.
beads taken from you, right?
It's the little steps that add up to step number 2 and 3.
Sash lands for max range from Eonic that locks down Zapman, who has the rewind, but I don't know if that's what he wants to use. Beads allow him to reposition, but Weekend blinks over the wall. A great rotation from Trifecta to punish this Kronos in the early game and finally get on the board.
Zap has been very patient this entire set with using his defensive relics, even his ultimates from time to time, but there was like that third factor of Weekend blinking through the purple buff. It was very difficult for Zap to anticipate that one. Sometimes it's better safe than sorry, but even if he rewinds before the blink happens, he's still dead there to Weekend's rotation.
Yeah, I think so. I think he was in the kind of situation where rewind wouldn't really have helped him. It would just put him further out of position, so he had to keep pushing forward. And like you said, with Weekend being there, no real options for Zapman. On the Kronos this time to switch things up. You know, he's been building Rage every game. Unfortunate. You can't build Rage if you're Kronos, Zap.
No, you can't, but you can build Shaman's Ring, and I'm going to be excited to see that one. And if there's anyone that you want to kill early on in SK's roster, it better be Zap, because he's been having a fantastic 2-week performance, I would say, so far.
Yeah, really,
and
this whole team has, yeah.
I think Wowy needs to be kind of enabled to get into a great position to carry, because so far on the Jingwei games 1 and 2, he hasn't been given the opportunity to do so with how his frontliners have been kind of falling bit by bit.
It's been hard for him, I think, to find the right times in. Maybe he could rotate over a little bit more often and try and help out with those fights, but Zapman's been able to stay put and contribute with the Darkest Night, so if he doesn't get anything from the rotation, he just loses. So it really has been tough for him to find the perfect spot as Zapman has his ultimate forced out. And Eonic wants more, but can't land the sash.
Still level 4, so no real threat of that Windfire wheel. So taking away the blue buff on the right side of the map. Actually, it looks like Ducky still has the blue buff. I'm not sure if that's from the old one or if that's one that he just picked up, whereas Trifecta losing their purple buff, or rather invading the purple buff. So that's a clear-cut strategy you want to do. When you're losing something on one side of the map and you know there's no way you're going to be able to get there in time to defend it, look for plays on the opposite side.
I like this idea from Trifecta, though. They just forced out the bead from Zapman the last time they ganked with Weaken. Just now they forced out his ultimate, so keep up this pressure. But they are going to be able to need to keep Eonic alive to make it worth it. He has the ultimate available. That's the end of Neirumah. Eonic gets the second kill now for Trifecta, and the fight's not done. Wild Hunt comes out from the Kernanos. That shuts them down. Weaken wants the knock-up, and that takes down Paul as well. Trifecta find 2 in the jungle.
Oh, but a cleanup after the blink out of Sanford Soccer. Doesn't want any more, despite Wowy not having much mana, or Weaken for that matter. Zapman turning the corner, but it is still a 3-on-2 for Trifecta.
They're keeping up the fight on the purple buff as Belair goes up into the air on the solo side. Dash in aggressively from Lasbra, and he's nearly punished as Sam turns around and punches him in the face. But it's Wowy who finds the kill, sends Sam back to base, and Trifecta answer with 3 on the duo side.
Oh, Zap wants to get at least another kill here. Taking a lot of damage, 109 per hit there. Still not done. Delaying the backs out of Weaken, and now even Wowy can give him that farm that he needs. So overall, I believe that was a 1 for 3. Paul died.
I think so, yes.
Yeah, Paul, Neil died, and then Sanford Soccer. So yeah, only killing Eonic there. Not a good look if you're an SK fan.
No, not enough for them at all as Trifecta finally makes some nice answers back. That isn't enough to get them back into the gold lead as they're still down over 1,000, but at least helps them try and climb their way back into this match. It's not so far gone that that's hopeless for this team. I don't want to make it sound like doom and gloom, but they're trying to maintain relevance.
It's surprising to see SK with a gold lead like this when it's Trifecta with a kill lead. And a lot of that is 4 Totem of Coups, right? So that's about 500 gold advantage there. And then you also have the first blood bounty after killing out Eonic that allowed SK a little bit of a lead, as it did go to Sanford Soccer.
That adds up to me totally. Good math, real quick, as SK Gaming enjoy the lead, the fruits of their labor. And now they have a chance to close this set out. And I think that if SK have those top team aspirations like we talked about earlier, then this is the kind of performance they have to turn in. Trifecta are strong, but they might not be ready to show it just yet. As Belair's in some trouble, he gets brought down from one ultimate right into another. Is able to get some good healing off, but now the knock-up. He goes up into the air, uses it for damage more than for the retreat, and now makes it back to the tower. But Eonic has the sash. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Wowy gets Zapman. They've got pressure in 2 lanes.
Oh, wow. That was actually a 1v2 because Sanford Soccer was there before Weaken. I'm pretty sure Zapman was trying to bait himself on purpose to get the rewind off. He miscalculated the return damage as Wowy didn't even use the beast. He just straight up used the Wild Hunt, probably during the channel time of the rewind.
Ducky has Belair up in the air yet again, as there's some aggression on the other side from Neirumah as well. We can't quite lock down the Weaken, so these solo laners continue to trade out. But Trifecta have answered back well so far, at least in terms of kills, to try and make this game work for them. Belair might still be looking for a little bit more here in solo, but now Ducky's made it back. So let's see if we can go back and take a look at that kill we missed over in duo.
The left side lane. It was a little bit of a bait tactic. Zapman fighting out Wowy. Remember that Sanford Soccer gets there. Oh no, Weaken's actually there trying to assist in the matter, and the bait was there. It was actually a 2-on-1 where Weaken got into the sky as we switched the camera. That's what it was.
So he couldn't quite make it back out. So a nice kill for Trifecta to at least shut him down. They're still not back to parity. At least he got a good idea of what happened last time as the proxy comes out from Belair working together with Neil.
A great look if you're a Trifecta fan. So far, 2 deaths onto Zapman, 2 kills for Wowy. This is the way that you get Kernanos in a perfect prime position that's trying to stack out those Devo gloves. But it's up to Trifecta now to hold on to their blue buff.
Stun lands onto Neil. Ducky deletes him. That's unfortunate if you're a fan of SK. He is removed from the equation quite quickly, and Belair has to flee. Trifecta answering back so far. There's still some life there for these boys on the left-hand side.
SK just stay aggressive. They don't care. They're going to look for those blue buff invades one way or another. And this level 6 Fenrir is starting to struggle a little bit as Eonic crosses over to that level 7 mark. And a lot of it comes down to stunning the Fenrir before Ragnarok comes off. And once that happens, Neirumah is going to be a sitting duck, at least this early in the game, when he doesn't have too much health or protections before the items come online.
That's right. Neil's got to make sure that he doesn't throw too much away. Though this strategy of taking the support out of the dual lane, you're okay with your support if they do end up a bit behind, because you're usually able to normalize it all out later.
Oh, no.
As this 1v1 might turn into a solo kill. Belair goes right up into the air and has some turnaround damage, but there's action in the left lane too. Weekend went up to the air. He locks down Neirumah, and that sets up a killing spree for the jungler. Though he takes quite a bit of return damage, Zapman gets rewind off, and it's Sam who wants to even things up, but he can't lock Weekend down, and now he has to settle with these 3 members in the back, but Zapman working together with Paul even things up.
Good stun from Lasbra, keeping Paul in place. He did use the beats, but just creating enough distance to prevent all those ghosts. Gonna slow out Eonic and even stunning him out to increase the duration ×2, and it's up to Zap to play follow-up.
Lasbra drops 2 bombs, but it's Zapman who nearly finds the return kills. The tier 1 tower and solo falls in favor of Belair. He gets the back off too. I like the cheeky play. But the red buff defended by Weekend as he bounced back and forth. There's action everywhere, so we got to keep up with all of it. And so far, still, SK are the ones coming out on top.
I just don't see how, because the Totem of Coup differential is actually diminished by 2. And they're still behind in the kill category, and that's really surprising. Now, granted, they did get a tier 1 tower, which is 500 gold, but they're still adding more than that. Last time we checked up on them, they were up 1,000 gold. Now they're up 2,000 gold. They're losing in the kill differential. I just don't understand where the difference is really coming down to.
Trifecta's even been doing a much better job of defending their red buff, but you're right, it's Lasbra who's so far behind Paul. And, you know, this set, we've been blaming it on these rotations and Lasbra can't get his buffs, but I wonder if Paul has just been getting the better of him. I said before there were 2 players who I think are good enough to really punish some of our newer mid laners, some of these freshman mid laners coming in Season 6. One of them is Zeros, but I really do think the other one is Paul.
It could be, honestly. And right now, Lasbra has been making a lot of rotations, and he's been needing to make these rotations to diminish the aggression from SK Gaming.
Eonic in some trouble, though. Good dash. That gets him out of there. I wonder if he actually wanted to complete the ult, but I think either way is a timeline he'll live with as he makes his way back out.
And the thing is, because of all these rotations from Lasbra, this almost 2 level disparity is still going to favor out Paul as the game progresses. This level 13 to level 17 marker, the 3 points into the ultimate versus 4 points in the ultimate, is what makes your mid laner just that much stronger in those late game team fights.
Trifecta are considering this, but I think Paul might know. He's lurking around this jungle corridor. He's doing the mid camps
now,
so
idea.
Maybe he doesn't know.
No idea.
And Gold Fury is going to go down. Trifecta sneak this one away, and the rest of SK caught napping.
Wow. Paul actually was walking towards mid lane the whole time. I guess he couldn't even hear it over the wall at the same time, and that was a cheeky play from Trifecta that they really needed to get into this game.
And they got to keep their eye on that one. Zapman had back to base, so there's no way he can keep track of where Wowy is. So I got to think that's Paul in that situation. They know that Lasbra's missing.
He's got to peek his head around the corner as Eonic gets his head peeked and blown off out of Zapman.
Zapman takes him down. A nice kill for the Chronos to try and even up that kill count. He's at 2-2-0. Neirumah in some trouble as Ducky takes him up into the sky, brings him right back down. And who's there but a Weekend to punish to get the 8th kill of the game for Trifecta and keep things moving in their favor. But even still, Tully, with the Gold Fury and all that, they're still behind.
Still behind.
That's crazy,
Trifecta
isn't it?
just can't make it happen. As even Belair able to make it happen by stealing away the speed buff, and that gotta be infuriating if you're weak and they're losing your speed buff. Yeah, you got the Gold Fury. Yeah, you got a kill, but you lost your speed buff, buddy.
Zapman even still has the pressure here in this dual lane, and he's got Sam for Soccer looping around underneath. He tanks the tower for a bit, takes 2 shots. Zapman not looking for the kill. He's looking for the tower. Poor Sam, he ends up falling. I don't know if they were on the same page for that.
Well, he did use rewind, so he had to stop DPS, unfortunately, and that just allowed more of a window for Eonic to assist Wowy. Great synergy between Wowy and Eonic, not so much between Sam and Zap.
They got the tier 1 tower, though, which I think is probably the real goal. So Sam, maybe not exactly the way they want that to go, but it's still okay. A little bit extra goal for the team, and the map now opened up. Kerninos a little less safe.
And honestly, this is still favoring out Zapman. Despite taking 2 early spills in this game with 2 early kills for Wowy, there's a 1 level advantage for this Chronos in that dual lane. It's just Trifecta able to find the farm, whereas everyone from Trifecta are trying to defend their buffs more than they are able to make those offensive plays.
That's right. We've seen some of these fights going Trifecta's way, but it feels like those are in their own territory. It's SK Gaming winning a couple of these trades, and that's really all they need to be able to strip some farm away, at least from Trifecta, as now they're considering the Pyromancer. Though Sam drops it, he falls back from that. Neil avoids the sash, but not the bomb. He's a little bit lower, but he's in no trouble.
Neirumah not going to get stunned down, had that stun connected. I think the rest of Trifecta could have looked for more poke, but now, with a Void Shield, Neirumah going to be a little bit more tanky, looking for literally anybody at this point.
But the bombs continue to rain from Lasbra, and that will melt Neirumah. And that'll be the end of the dog. Eonic does find the sash, but Belair level 15, unintimidated. He keeps up the chase. Now it's Ducky, who's stuck in between 4. He does find a nice big stun and some healing, but Paul burns him down the card a little bit too much.
The double magical damage. Paul and Zapman abusing this early game Arthur. 16 minutes in, and they're still looking for more. Eonic now is not even safe under his own tier 2 tower.
He ends up falling. Belair with the bat out of hell can keep up the pressure, though Sam needs some help. Overhead kick lets him reposition, and Weekend goes up, but there's no way Weekend can jump in. He certainly does. He at least gets the kill to complete the rampage, and he makes it out.
Well, the question is he going to get escaped after Paul and Zap is done with Lasbra? Wowie's actually going to be the next target, but tier 2 tower safety. Going to get some pod shots off. Pyromancer and Fire Giant are up. They have the DPS, I think, if they want it, with Zapman.
I think so, too. They're going to settle for the Pyromancer now as Belair keeps Trifecta in a different area code of the map. They can't even make their way in.
No
Ducky's
dash.
making a rotation, though, which could potentially be interesting, but Weekend had no way out. Paul shuts him down. That's too much damage. Ducky's not even considering the Pyro. He wants this Zhang Kui, but Neil has the stun, leaps in, and the Horrific comes out as well, and now Ducky's been turned on and deleted. Belair finds 1-2. SK Gaming turning up.
Oh my goodness, Belair. Not taunting by standing still there, folks at home. Utilizing the pool after the death out of Wowy. Great bait coming out of, who was it there? I think it was Belair around the corner where Paul was hiding in the wits. Once the dash from Weekend happened, that's it. He was dead to rights.
Yeah.
He had no ultimate available, and the problem was when you're sitting at 5-0-4 before that death, you're feeling very confident that, hey, I have the DPS, I'm very big, I got my boys behind me, but man, that Zhang Kui is no slouch either. Sitting at level 16 with Bancroft's talent, Spear of Magus, you get that card on you, and you are just going to start getting melted.
Man, this is best case scenario, I think, if you're SK as a team, because this game has had so much Neil and Belair in it, and those were the two that I thought had the most room to step up for this team coming into this season, and so far they've absolutely done it. Now the Fire Giant being burnt, and there's no one from Trifecta anywhere nearby. They don't even know this was happening, and if they do, they can't contest it. That's the FG for SK. And they've been looking very, very impressive so far.
They have been, and they're still trailing in the kill department, but it doesn't matter when you're getting a Fire Giant 18 minutes into the game. Gold Fury does go for Trifecta, keeping it relatively not as bad as they would want for SK Gaming side of things, but they got to play defense now under all their tier 2 towers.
And this is just proof, right? There's no way that this team can go on the run that they went on at the end of Fall Split if Neil and Belair aren't up to snuff, right? If they're not strong enough, even with how good Paul and Sam play. And they're showing you here that when a team comes in that's not quite as prepared, then SK Gaming can expose it. They can break them down in their farming habits and get more out of the map than they can, even when they're not leading in kills.
As much as Season 5 was the Sam and Paul League, this has been basically an SK Gaming League now, completely.
100%.
Neirumah consistently baits himself in these awkward positions because he knows the rest of his teammates are there to follow up. Paul and Zapman in that last engagement was very important to destroy Ducky. Only having the tier 1 version of the Genji's Guard for that last fight is what allowed this double magical pair in this mid to late game form to completely take the crown off of King Arthur's head.
It feels a bit Raffer-like, doesn't it? Like back when he was on Energy, the way that Neil plays this. He's so aggressive. He's often the first one in. And if you're just looking from our perspective, you're almost like, well, where's the rest of the team? And then they come in from the sides, and they're there just in time to save him, and he makes it out with just barely any HP. It really is great what we've been seeing from Neil so far to facilitate for the rest of this team. They've got the cannons of Paul and Sam in the back, but it feels like the rest of the ship now is there, and the whole team flowing no problem.
And San for Soccer has been making a lot of plays in his own right. Not as successful as it was in game number 1, but he's still that jungle enabler to create this safety buffer for Paul and Zap to do those late game things that they're looking for. And with Fire Giant around their waist for another 3 minutes or so, this tier 2 in the mid tower is going to be the next target, unless they're going to wait for Belair to split push on the right side of the map.
And Belair has gone up against King Arthur 3 games in a row now and looked strong in every last one of them. He's up 4 levels, so an impressive performance from him in his own right as he threatens the tier 2 in right. They give up on the tier 2 in mid, where Trifecta have shown up in full force to defend, and SK Gaming still giving them their due respect, though I think they could probably force it down.
They definitely could. They're just allowing Belair to get a free tier 2 tower to make this rotation because they don't want to, even with Fire Giant, SK don't want to fight 4-on-5 if they don't have to.
Yeah.
So you could tell that with them backing off, even for like that 5-second window, they're just resetting, see if what Trifecta want to do, because if Trifecta fight outside their tier 2 tower, that's when Belair peels off of that solo tower, starts rotating, and plays cleanup crew essentially.
Well, SK Gaming now want to push down this Phoenix. They're already chunking it. Neo can't find the stuns, but he can find the duck, brings him back towards everyone else, and there's already too much damage. Locked down and removed. A killing spree for Zapman as they take down the tank. Now, what about this mid Phoenix? They don't even have Sam here. He's threatening and right as Belair blinks in and keeps Eonic busy on the back.
Nothing Eonic can do without the Windfire Wheel. Stunning in now. He has nowhere else to go. Weaken on the backline. Going to knock up Neirumah, but that's not the target you want.
Neirumah's low, but they've gotten exactly what they wanted. They've gotten this mid-side Phoenix. They've gotten Lasbra, and they can move right on in. I don't even think they need anything else. It's Weaken, Eonic, and Wowy, and SK Gaming can push in, though they do slow down a bit. They want Eonic first. A nice clean pick for Zapman. 4, 2, and 5 on the chrono so far. This Titan's swinging away, but I don't know if it can hang. Not up against the might of SK Gaming. They're barreling in to the Titan room, and Trifecta try as hard as they might. I don't know if they've got quite enough. Half HP on the Titan, but they're holding for now and forcing back SK.
Trying to run away is Weaken a little
They've
bit
reset
low.
it.
Titan is reset. Zapman doing some damage, as is Paul. Going down to the Titan with Wowy getting credit. Sam
They keep
Forsaka is
resetting.
low. Titan, 50% health. And SK Gaming looking for the 3-0.
Trifecta are holding on, though. They're holding on for every bit that they have. Lasbra's found some damage, but it just isn't enough. Zapman takes Weaken. Zapman and the squad take the game. 3-0, that's the set, as SK look good.
It seemed like an easy day in the office for SK Gaming.
Yeah, they're
honestly.
calm, aren't they?
And like when you face Pittsburgh Knights in the first week and have a good showing for the very first day of the SPL, you better come out like the way they did up against Trifecta, that had a lot of question marks of how they were going to synergize together, with Lasbra shifting from the jungle into the mid role, with Wowy and Eonic in the same dual lane. How are they going to mesh together?
It really does feel like, though, Trifecta now they've gone to the doctor, right? And you get the first trip, the doctor tells you what's wrong. But now comes the important part, which is what you do about it. What's the cure? What's the process now to try and make some improvements? They've got the identification, but now what can they do to try and make those adjustments? Because I think right now there's multiple problems.
Yeah, Trifecta, when they look at that scale of like, how much does it hurt? It's like in that 7 to 10 range. It like hurts a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem right now for the Trifecta squad. Some things that stood out for me is Lasbra was having some trouble keeping up in terms of farm with where Paul was. It makes some sense. Paul's very, very good, so it's a tough scale to put yourself up against. Wowy felt like a non-factor for me as well in that hunter role. Zapman had him largely controlled. And then Ducky, on arguably the best god in the game, couldn't make any impact.
So individually, I didn't see any weaknesses. What I did see was the fact that they had to play too defensive for their own right.
Yeah.
The SK aggression was too much for Trifecta to handle. They did make rotations to stop and mitigate some of it, but overall, it was just too much for them to handle.
A very dominant performance from SK. They come out 3-0. Let's get it back to the desk, though, to see if they've got any thoughts.
Thank you very much, Finch and Tolly. A quick 3-0. All 3 games, sub 25 minutes, I believe. SK looks great, don't get me wrong, but Trifecta came into today looking a little bit underprepared, I would say.
A little bit scatterbrained too as well, but I think one thing I will give the team the benefit of the doubt on is that I do know for a fact that these guys just recently, I believe this past week even, just went through the transition period of moving into their house, getting everything in order. So that underpreparedness, I think, comes as a direct result of the team maybe having their priorities shifted more towards their living accommodations and the like. And that's not an excuse by any means. And I just don't think that this is necessarily the Trifecta we can expect to see all season long.
No, I definitely think Trifecta will continue to improve. This team definitely is going to have some growing pains and really no synergy across the board. None of these players have played together before, so this is all coming from the ground up. But Trifecta today just did not bring that same level that SK Gaming did. And the King Arthur first pick 3 games in a row, and it gets dominated 3 games in a row, is very it's surprising to me. I don't know. Trifecta just seemed to think that eventually it would go better, and it never did.
Felt a little bit like the definition of insanity for a second there, but either way, they felt like the King Arthur was best, and I won't lie, in that last game at least, that was probably their best opportunity to stray away from the whole King Arthur trap card that has been activated over and over again by this team. But unfortunately, SK, all too prepared for it, I think saw right through exactly what Trifecta was looking for. That Xbalanque ban in that first-second banning phase, I think was the real winner of this set. I
do want to say that we were talking about the dual lane picks, and if that would change anything, for what it's worth, I think both Wowy and Eonic looked a little bit better in Game 3, but overall still just not quite there. And it isn't just the Camazot's pick, I think, but it was the constant blue buff pressure that SK was putting on. I don't think that Ducky got an initial blue all set. I don't know that he got a pre-10-minute blue all set. And so you kind of need to go and bail out your soul laner a little bit better in that situation.
But I think that's also something that SK did incredibly well, was Paul just kept Lasbra so locked down in that mid lane, because Lasbra had some really impactful rotations early on, had 3 assists even on the Agni at one point, but it was just never really to build it up into something more, because he just fell so far behind in lane from Paul just continuing to farm, continuing to kind of just take every single set of mid camps, and then before you know it, there's a 2-level disparity between these 2 mid laners, and suddenly all those rotations that Lasbra was feeling like it would make a difference for his team, I think ended up coming back to essentially, it was too much to go against Lasbra.
Exactly. I mean, it was all of SK Gaming looking like a really well-oiled machine in this game, and this is something that we're going to have to see how it plays out throughout the entire SPL early portion of Phase 1 at least, and that's these teams that stuck together, maybe only made one switch, how well they do in comparison to the teams that have just come together. And as I said, I think the Trifecta has some of the least synergy on paper because just none of the players have played together at that level before. So it's going to take them some time potentially. Hopefully they can get to the level of SK Gaming eventually, though. They looked pretty darn good today. In fact, let's take a listen to them. It's Paul and Zapman sitting by from SK.
I'm here with Paul and Zapman, mid laner, and Hunter for Trifecta. First thing first, I want to ask you guys about the win that you guys were able to get, or rather for SK, excuse me, about the win that you guys were able to get. You let King Arthur through 3 times in a row, and every time you guys dominated it. I mean, at any point, were you expecting them to switch up the ban or anything like that, or were you guys just going to keep letting them through?
I guess I'll take this one. We had a strategy against King Arthur. We definitely know he's a super strong pick, and if he's let loose or he's let off the reins or he even gets like a slight lead, even against a quote-unquote counter pick like Camazot's, he can still dominate the game. But we're really confident in our Zhongqi pick and especially the Chronos pick in the late game, where we could lock him down long enough where we can kill him before he can get any of his heal off from Glad Shield. So that's pretty much the plan. Yeah. And some of the games are a little bit scary with Arthur getting a little bit ahead. Like I think it was game 2 or something like that, but all in all, I think Belair played really well into that matchup.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys, how did you prepare for this Trifecta roster? Like, no one really knew what they were going to be bringing into the table. Was it more about figuring out what they were doing, or more about working on your own game after the Week 1 performance you guys had against the Knights?
Yeah, we actually had no idea what they're going to play, but we just decided to ban Fender and Asia because I feel like they're a little bit strong right now. And other than that, we just wanted to play well, and we thought we'd win.
All right, well, an impressive set here from Paul and Zapman. Congratulations on your win, and good luck in your next matches, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
SK Gaming looking clean from head to toe, no doubt about it. These guys are just working really well together right now, and I think that's the big difference between not just them and Trifecta, but I think SK and a lot of teams in this league, I think that they're going to get a lot of opportunities to prove how good they are.
And I'm really excited to see how the rest of these teams continue to develop over the season. This is, without a doubt, probably going to be one of the more competitive iterations. And we say that every year, but it's because it's true every single year.
It just keeps getting better. There's no doubt about that. Thank you so much for watching all week. We had a really, really good week overall. It wasn't just today, but yesterday there was a real insane set between Rival and Team Dignitas. And, of course, all the different games that we saw in the SCL and SML previously this week as well.
And of course, even though this final set of the week might have ended in 0-3 results for Trifecta, that I think there's definitely still plenty of room for improvement, and that can be a positive mindset that the team can look forward to.
Do you buy into all the hype around Fine OK? Because Mike said during his post-game interview that he thinks that Fine OK will be considered by far the best solo laner in the world by Worlds, and Twig said he might be the best player by then. Do you agree with that?
I think we might see the return of Baskin to defend his title if that becomes the case.
Okay. All right, little Baskin. Gotta mention him, I suppose. But he's playing for Armada in the minor league. Fine's doing it. Fine's doing it in the big boy league. There's no doubt about that. Thank you guys for watching again. The SPL will resume next Thursday, but of course, make sure you tune in on Monday. We've got the next week of the SCL coming up. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
The Smite Pro League, brought to you by Skillshot. High-Res Studios, Titanforge, INAP, Steel Series, and Respawn.